are with Christy as well as Shayna, and then ending with John. So of course, we know for many business professionals, COVID-19 has impacted their ability to connect with existing and potential government clients and teaming partners. So what challenges have you experienced over this last year? In particular, what advice would you have for overcoming some of those challenges? And so we'll start first with Christy, then go to Shayna, and then wrap up with John.
So just for a quick intro, I'm Christy Puglisi. I'm the founder and owner of ClearEdge IT Solutions. We've been in business for about 18 years, small women-owned company, primarily extensively in the IC community. So that's our primary customer. Have ventured out a little bit, but not quite as much. And really focus on software engineering, data analytics, all the types of engineering and data combined, I would say. And then as far as your first question, Leonardo, I think for us, we've seen an agency that has slowed down as far as their awards and procurements. Things that used to kind of be long anyway have now doubled in time. Some procurements are 2 years out, 1 year out. So for us, that's been definitely a challenge to our pipeline. We have begun to venture to other agencies, to other outside sources to try to combat that long turnaround cycle. So that's something that we've done. I think we've seen the events all go virtual, which in some aspects is great because we can kind of reach more of them. But I notice the large missing aspect of personal connections, running into someone, impromptu meetings, going to an FCA luncheon, meeting up with folks, having a good conversation. Those personal one-on-ones now pretty much have to be scheduled and reach outs to kind of get there. So those are some of my preliminary things that I've noticed.
Thank you. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of those reach outs a little bit later and perhaps challenges even there. And so Shayna, if you go next.
Got to unmute. Sorry, I have a puppy who's crying in the background. I think it's been challenging to get in. It's always hard to get in front of the customer in general, and then it's super hard where they're in and out due to COVID. So I have everyone's phone number on speed dial, and I've been stalking them, and then you had to learn which days they were on and off. And for a long time, as Christy said, they were not concerned with executing anything. Really, it was like a stay alive environment, which from a business standpoint was slightly pleasant because it was all calm and there was just status quo. I got to enjoy my summer. And then they came back and it was insane. And everything is changing every minute, and it's been incredibly difficult to plan. It's really been hard to do any strategic planning. All plans have gone out the door. I have moved pretty significantly outside of being strictly IC focused, and I think that's been a godsend. Personally, we have focused a lot on DoD relationships. The turnaround time is night and day. I mean, it's, they submit a proposal and 2 months later it's awarded, and then it's acted on like a month later, versus the agency where it could be a year before they actually submit it, then they change it. So I think that's been good for my sanity and the balance, and we've seen a huge turn in people who've wanted to leave. But I think one of our company strengths is we have been very good with a digital presence and reaching out and always being available by phone and text and, quick responses. And so while the government has been harder to reach, people are more available than ever before because there's no expectation of meeting in person.
That's another one we'll come back to as well. And so, John?
Hey, thanks, Leonardo. So John Gorman from Leidos. Most people know Leidos in the space, large business contractor. So our focus up here in Columbia is primarily MPO, the services cyber command. I've seen a lot of that same pivot over the last year. We've pivoted a lot to the services. as MPO pretty much had shut down, and saw the same types of things Shannon was just talking about, with much more responsive, much quicker contracting type of opportunities. So that's been good. I also agree with Christy on the one-on-ones. I miss that, right? I'm an extrovert. BD guys are always usually extroverts. So human interaction, I should find myself jonesing to be talking to people. Anybody other than my son and daughter at this point, because them I want to strangle half the time, but other humans, yes. Yeah, so it's been interesting. I also agree that it has been just a massive amount of change in the last, I would say even the last day. We just yesterday got a letter and had $1.5 billion procurement just completely blown up and changed and altered. So, so that changes strategies and it changes all kinds of things. So we have to adapt to that quickly.
And so kind of staying there and talking about this adapting, one of the things that we talked kind of prior to today was just, some of the differences between ultimately how government contractors and government small businesses, some and how government small business offices at times can go about interacting with new contractors or teaming partners. And so, so this is going to be for John and Christy. So kind of maybe again, from a maybe advice or experience standpoint, what would you say to those who are again trying to diversify their business portfolio by entering this government contracting arena, and ultimately how they might engage, say, a contractor like a Leidos versus an agency small business office? And so maybe we'll start with you, John.
Yeah, so I mean, Leidos, we're always looking for small businesses to help, to grow, to expand in the space. The small business requirements, there's small business requirements at MPO, but there's actually more at places like DISA and some of the services, some of the DoD contracts that you'll see more socioeconomic requirements trickle down that you don't see quite as much. I think the only other thing I would tell small businesses, right, reach out to us, send us your information, try and focus a little bit on who you really are and what your core capabilities are. I find a lot of small businesses come in with a capability sheet longer than ours or Lockheed's. And, that probably doesn't give me a good idea of what you actually are really good at and what you can do. So I always recommend people actually tell me what your real core competencies are and what you're interested in doing, and what kind of people you usually have in your network that you can help hire. So we're always looking for small businesses to help us staff opportunities or bring niche solutions to the market, or bring niche solutions to some of our solutions, right? Some very specific technology capabilities, development capabilities, or hardware software solutions. So that's what I would suggest from a Leidos perspective.
Thank you. And Christy?
I would say from the small business side, much of what John mentioned, absolutely accurate. I think knowing your goal and your target, where do you want to get to? Beyond just your niches, do you want to work on large contracts? That requires a little bit more from you as a company if you're small. If you get on small contracts such that we might have, there's a little bit less there from time to time for requirements behind the scenes. So depending on your back office and your wherewithal, you might want to choose not only technology, but your target of size of contract, I think matters, getting in the gate sort of aspect. I would say taking advantage of opportunities that the agency or other intel agencies provide. Business in a Minute is one that the agency I work with does. It's typically in June. We've supported that every year. And we've met a lot of small companies in that fashion, and that's worked well. I'm sure there are many others, how to do business with the agency, those things I would highly recommend. But again, depends on your network. If you know John, that's great to give him a call and get out there and get on his calendar, especially because he likes to see humans, right? So there's your way in with Leidos, right? But for others, if you don't know that, then I would work your way in. One of the other things I see from the Business in a Minute is kind of what John spoke to about your capabilities. Really focus on your niche. Don't try to be the end all be all. It's not really realistic, and we know that. It's challenging to staff in this environment. So I would choose one or two or maybe three at most things that you want to focus on. And then If you have any wherewithal as far as prior experience, that's always nice. It helps us gauge your experience level and how we might help you as a future partner. So those aspects are additional considerations, I would say. I think that's about it that I can think of at the moment.
Hey, Christy,
No, that
would
those
you-
are.
I was going to ask if either Christy or Shayna had any thoughts on the small business outreach at DISA or the PISA program. You guys are probably a little closer to that than I am now. Are those still active programs and a good venture or a good venue for folks?
Shayna, if you're doing DISA, I'll let you answer because I'm not currently.
I have participated in the small business program at DISA. DISA is very small business friendly. I would say most agencies do a really great job of teaching you how to do business at their agency and educating you on what they sell. And DISA is very pro small business. I personally find DISA very hard to work at for two main reasons. One, they were using Schedule 70. So though they loved small business, they were putting most of their work out on Schedule 70, or they used a variety of large IDIQs that I didn't have. And you really weren't sure how they, even if it was going to go small business, you weren't sure how they were going to put the work out. So I find it's like, you might do all of your homework, be super qualified, and then you're playing like a game of Plinko of trying to figure out how it will come out and if you're on it, and do you have, even if you're not primed, do you have a relationship with a prime that you can trust, and is it worth it? So I find that actually pretty frustrating and a big barrier at DISA personally for really doing business, because not only are you like wondering if it's going to come out small business, but you don't know how it's going to come out. The other problem I found at DISA was their sources saw it, especially when, NYLA's about 40-ish people now, but their sources saw it were like proposals, and they wouldn't right size their sources saw it. So they would ask for like a sources saw it and be like, we're thinking about this being a hub zone. And it was like $100 million contract, which was like, no way they'd ever put out a hub zone in a million years. So, and every single thing they did, they were like, this $950 million contract could potentially go hub zone if only you hub zones would respond. And they weren't going to do that either. So I had to kind of really back up and look at where's my ROI and the value of that. The PISA program is good for getting you just your actually it doesn't even get you your facilities clearance. I forget what the PISA program value does. But it doesn't even get you, I think it gets you a clearance, but it doesn't get your company a clearance. So you're still sort of stuck.
Yeah, it's probably changed over the years. I've had folks that have used it. I think John's really mentioned the elephant in the room though. You really need a facilities clearance to do work. And that's, the chicken and the egg conundrum that's very challenging. So you've got to figure out how to get that, whether you partner with a Leidos or NYLA or a ClearEdge that has prime contracts, and we could help you there. The PISA program is another way to do that. But for the, super smalls, it's not just the one person anymore. They're tightening that down. And then if you're not working with someone, you've got to have someone inside that's going to write a justification for you. So I would think it'd be better to work with a prime contractor. Something also, you can also do the mentor protege programs with large contractors such as Leidos, Booz, Lockheed, all of those. So depending on your partnership level, that could probably be a godsend for you to help you get in the door.
No, that's great insights. And so, one of the things kind of that we also talked about, and we got just a few more questions before we shift gears here, but this is specifically for Shayna. We talked a lot about this M&A activity that's taking place in the market as well. And the fact that it's increasing the competition for talent and changing the landscape in terms of business capacity. And certainly John, I think, even touched on it as well from a staffing levels and so forth. So ultimately, with all of the kind of the M&A activity, how is this changing in the sense of, how you do business or what you're seeing from a business development standpoint?
You'd like me to start first?
Yes. Yes, you go. Yeah, that's for you.
There has been a bonanza of small businesses being sold right now. I guess it is a hot time to sell your business if you are near approaching large size. For me, it's been absolutely wonderful because most of my competition has sold, and now we're available and ready to prime opportunities. But it's been almost a daily adventure of who's getting sold. And so all of these planning sessions to go after proposals are changing significantly. It seems like near every day. And companies will go all in that they're going to prime something until the last minute that they sold. We also were really this market is incredibly difficult to hire people for, particularly exacerbated by COVID because no one wants to work on site anymore. And prior to that, we had companies that were focused on growth beyond everything, and their money was being made in a sale. So there was almost no competition because they were giving away every single thing ever, no matter what, to candidates, right? 10% 401k, no matter what, 6 weeks off, all of your healthcare paid for. Like, I don't know how they made any money whatsoever, but it was our goal was to blow up. And so, yeah, I'm glad that's sold. And that it's like, I don't, maybe there is other people out there, but I think it's been good. People who want to get out of the game, they got their cash, and that's part of this turnover and greening of entries and ideas and people. And so I think it's good. Competition is a great thing.
Hey, it always makes you perform a little bit better. And so with that, this is going to be kind of our last question. And this is going to be for both Shana and Christy, because I think both of you kind of touched on these things. And this was related to the industry days and conferences, and which have always been kind of those tried and true ways in which you gain access to different, program managers, acquisition officers, and so forth. And so obviously the inability to gather has impacted all of that. And so how are you touching base? I know you mentioned, Shana, you mentioned having kind of your stock call list, but how are you guys kind of touching bases with preferred agencies, and particularly the people that you typically would communicate with at large gatherings? So maybe Shana, then Christy.
I was thinking about this, and I wonder if it's a little bit of like, I don't know what I don't know, right? Like, I know I'm in this world right now of hunting down opportunities. So it's a blessing because I have time to think about more where I want to go and reach out to people strategically. So it's a little less noise. So I'm very focused on a specific efforts, and my phone calls are set up around that versus chitty chatting and random things popping up. And I do engage quite a bit digitally. So I think I'm known for a heavy LinkedIn and online presence and response. And I think that really makes up for, not popping in, but I think I seem accessible, right? Like, and highly responsive. I don't know. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, right? I just know that this is the world I'm in right now. And I personally like the time to sit and think about where do we really want to go. I do think the digital buildup and presence has helped with, I think anytime you're meeting with someone, so we gave the example of how do you go approach Leidos? Well, you should know your homework, but you should also expect that first meeting to have nothing come out of it, right? You don't want your first meeting with someone to be where you have an ask, right? You want a relationship, you want to just get to know you. You have to have a dialogue and people have to get a sense. So that first meeting or those first couple of meetings, and that's the value of, I think, lowering your expectations, because people have to get to know you and suss you out over time, or you're introduced or your reputation came before, so that they might never have met you, but someone else is recommending you that really comes in. So I think it's probably pretty hard if you are not already in this world.
And Shana, I want to thank you for lowering everybody's expectations of meetings with me in the future.
Actually, I call it like, well, I'll just say it. I say like in the beginning, you eat a lot of shit sandwiches. You just get a lot of no's and you get a lot of people like shitting on you, and you just, it's almost like they're not intentionally trying to what's it called? But like you have to prove your mettle, right? Like you have to prove that you're there and you're going to stick around and you're going to take their crap and you're going to figure some ways out and figure out the value. And then that proves that, like, because there's a million people in the beginning, right? It's like starting a marathon. There's a million people who think they're going to finish the marathon, and not everybody can or does. And it's hard. And so I think you just have to get comfortable, like sticking your hand out in many ways, digitally, emails. So sometimes people are ghosting you on purpose, and sometimes they're busy, and it's following up is not a bad thing. So you just really have to remember it's like 7 touch points before they really remember. So you think you might be annoying, but they kind of need to see it.
Christy, what you think you want to add on that?
Yeah, I think it's like the nature of the barrier of entry, right? So it's hard to get right in. There are some steps that you have to get through to be able to do the work. So I think that's part of it as well. Just not readily available to get on contract and place is a problem. So the priority shifts downward, I guess. But I would say back to the question as far as I saw program managers and acquisition officers. Shana was right previously, they were working an altered schedule. So some have been gone for 6 months and we've yet to see them return 9 months. But it's interesting in that we've got to the opportunity to meet other folks, so we're broadening that network. It seems like some of the tried and true that are they are more readily available. So I've been able to get more meetings with those folks at the higher level contract folks, and have those that because we have a little bit of a respite, I get the opportunity to do that. I don't always do that if I'm fast and furious in proposal mode. So in some aspects that has increased for us, surprisingly, and expanded a network of people that we might not have worked with prior.
Thank you, Shana and Christy, for those insights. And as we wrap up, John, just want to allow you anything you'd like to share, just based upon kind of what you just recently heard from these two as we get ready to move into our breakout rooms.
The only thing I would add, just because Christy was just making a great point, I'm sorry, Shana made a great point about being persistent, right? Recognize that when you come and you talk to a prime, that prime probably already has a team, has people that have already put skin in the game and work to help with the business or whatever the case may be. And unless there's a compelling thing that is driving you into that program, right? Whether it's having the right people or having some of the right technical capabilities, you're on a long list of a lot of companies and a lot of people that are trying to get into that same place, right? So there really needs to be something compelling, and we have to be fair to the companies that helped us win it and helped us bid it. So, the primes are always trying to take that into account and give the team that was there for the long term that opportunity up front. Getting in with a company up front and bidding it with them is always, and proving your mettle during the process, right? Don't just join a company and sit back and go, boy, I can't wait. I hope they win it because I'm just going to staff the heck out of it when they do. That's not a great strategy either, right? Work with the team, learn the problems, help them with the proposal. It's going to give you tremendous insight into the opportunities and to the types of people that they're going to be looking for, and a leg up, so that when the program's won, not only will you know exactly what is really being looked for beyond the labor categories, but you're also going to have those relationships with the prime to call up and say, hey, John, congratulations on the win. And, we've been with you since day one, and we're really excited. We've got these 10 resumes, and, and I've already talked to your staffing managers, and I've been aligned with everybody, right? That's the flow. And that's how you continue to get the better opportunities to get in and crack that nut. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult.
Excellent. Well, thank you all again for sharing those insights. And hopefully this will get the juices flowing as we start having some dialogue. And so here's what's next. I'm going to have David is going to come back and actually just give us a quick insights as to kind of what you're going to see with trouble. We're going to break the first group, break you guys into breakout rooms. We'll be in there for somewhere around maybe 15 minutes or so, give or take, maybe 20. Then we'll shift gears and we'll go back out to another breakout room.